Hey guys, Tyler from Small Craft Fisherman, Small Craft Outfitters here. Just doing a quick and dirty video. Pretty excited. We got our first big order of the year. This is actually the earliest we've gotten this many boats in this early here in Northwest Wisconsin. I think two reasons. One, we've hit a couple 40-degree days already. It's been a relatively mild winter. Also, FeelFree, Three Waters Kayaks, Johnny Boats has some great new boats coming out, and our customers are really excited about them. We're getting a lot of inquiries. So, two boats in particular I want to cover. One, the FeelFree Lure 13.5 version 2. The 13.5 is a boat I floated for a couple years, one of my personal favorites. It came out in a new version 2 that we're really excited about. We just got one in. We finally got to find out some information about it. Just want to share that with you guys. The other one is the Big Fish 108, which we'll share in another video. I know some folks down in the south and the warmer states have already seen that, so we just wanted to cover the 13.5 version 2 because there's not a lot out on it right now. So I'll swap around my camera and do a walkthrough here so you guys can see what it's all about. Alright, so 13.5 version 2, looking from the front, first thing you'll notice, other than the new cooler area, is the color. It does come in the new FeelFree colors, the Ocean Camo, which is hands down our most popular color since that came out. I'm an orange guy myself, but my personal Moken 12.5 version 2 is actually in the Ocean Camo. Love it. Looks great. So at the very front, very similar. You have the mount space here for a light, camera, what have you. I personally put my GoPro on that front spot in the past. Hatch is the same. There is the support pillar in there for if you bow walk, stand up here, or what have you. It'll give you extra rigidity in the top. The other thing you'll notice is the rod tip protectors. These are on my Moken 12.5. I really like them, especially when I do rivers. I've had a couple customers actually on their 11.5s and 13.5s, the original ones, order some in. You can get them aftermarket for $19.99. We do sell them. And it's great for throwing a couple rods on the side in river situations where you don't want them sticking up and getting in the trees. This is probably the most prominent change is the old cooler space. If you remember in the version 1, they had a cutting board with a bones fish on here, and then it dual purposed. If you put in the motor, dual purposed is the controller for the overdrive motor system. What I like about this lid is they put in these bungees in actually the exact same configuration. I have done aftermarket mods for my personal and customer front hatches in the same configuration of the bungees, so that you could have a paddle keeper. You can slide your paddle up in there. You could store your hand bilge in there. You could store a small dry bag, what have you. I like that it's already there, so I don't have to mess with that. Save some time. Same convenience. The other thing I like about it is it's the same as the old lid in the fact that it has a gasket here. So if you wanted to use this to keep some stuff cold, FeelFree does make a liner that drops in here. I've actually used that to throw in the spring here in Wisconsin, crappie, bluegill, panfish in the early season before bass opens. And then in the summer I've thrown some frozen Nalgene bottles in there to let them thaw out during the day and use those for hydration. So still got that option. Still has a drain here, which is good, so if you use it for cooler. Also, what I like about the lid is I can see mounting a sonar or something on here. So if you do have the overdrive system, throw the sonar on here. You could run the wires through the gasket, put the sonar underneath. There's no specific hole for the sonar per se, but I'm sure you could rig something up, either attach it to the bottom of the overdrive itself or run the wire into the hull itself. The hull is the same, so you still have that pontoon, that tri-tune hull. You could put a transducer in the tunes there themselves, similar to the Big Fish 108, and rig something up there. So lots of options there. Sonar Pod is the same. It's got the hole. You can put overdrive in there. You just need to put the adapter plate in. The foot pegs are the standard foot pegs. If you add the rudder kit, you'll get the Smart Track foot pegs. What I really like about this boat is they made a lot of upgrades and improvements, but the price stayed the same, which is obviously year-to-year research and development costs, engineering costs. Is hard to do, but keeping the foot pegs the same or switching them to the standard foot pegs saves some money because Smart Track is a third-party vendor. Those are expensive. So keeping them to these standard pegs, which I actually really like, it is a great option to keep the price down so you don't have to spend a lot more money to get the newer model boat. The cockpit itself is the same as the version 1. Then going back here, one thing is the cup holders are gone, which are, depending on who you talk to, functional or not. I didn't use them a lot. I personally set my beverages here on the middle of the deck or throw them in the tank or in the cooler. The cup holders, they worked okay, especially on the 13.5, but the bottles and cans tend to tip over and just spill anyways. So I'm glad they just beefed up this area. That's one thing I heard they did on all these version 2 boats is beefed up this rear seat area here. In older model lures, there were some issues with cracking. They fixed that post 2016. It got better. I heard they beefed it up even more. So, I mean, you're talking about more people getting into it, bigger folks like myself you sit down, it can crack. I mean, FeelFree has excellent customer service, but glad to see they're tweaking things there. As far as the rear tank well, that is also the same. But here on the rear end, there's a noticeable difference. So it used to be on the old lures, you'd have 2 tubes on one side and one on another. One was for the uphaul on one side, one was for the rudder, and then rudder on the other side. What I like here is they plumb this so that your uphaul cable for the rudder comes right out the middle. If anyone's used the beaver tail rudder on one of the version 1 lures, they know why that's a nice thing to have. That rudder is bigger and it has a stiff spring. It's an excellent rudder. I love it over the first gen, but it is hard to pull up. So having that in the middle will help with that exponentially. Whereas in the old version, it'd be easier to pull it up to one side versus the other. This is right down the middle. The other thing I noticed on this is we have a groove here. So if you want to install the 8-ball hand rudder control, if you go with overdrive, it's got a groove here, or I'm sorry, it's actually a groove here up front to hold it. So you can screw it right in there, know exactly where it needs to go, and then you just have to rerun the plumbing, which isn't too terrible to do, to get the beaver tail to hand control. Of course, we've got the same gravity seat, which we all love. And then one other thing I noticed is, and this is similar on the Moken 12.5 version 2, it's got this latch here that kind of mates up with the rod tip protectors. So when you put a rod tip up front, you just latch the back side of the rod by the reel back here. This being a longer boat, it's a nice run to that. On the Moken 12.5, I actually had to move mine a little further back. I had to add some additional latches, and these are actually the same latches that come on the overdrive cases, which as a dealer I had extra, so I could just throw a spare one on and move it back. But this has a nice long run where I wouldn't be concerned at all in having a 6.5, 7.5 foot rod running that distance and then strap it in here by the reel, have it easy to access and quite secure. So that's my overview on the 13.5 version 2. If you guys have any questions, let us know, comment. You can get a hold of us, info@smallcraftoutfitters.com. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, what have you. And looking forward to bringing you to the Big Fish 108 video, an impression video that we're going to have here soon.